So for a training piece relative to altitude, if you're not going to have the opportunity to train at altitude, or how about this? Let's say you can do some training at altitude and you get a couple of pieces in. For those who are living at altitude, your training based upon you being there and adapting to it is not going to be an issue. For those that are less than 1,500 feet above sea level, and that's where their training will take place leading up to early September, there's a couple things you want to think about. Number one, you want to get to altitude and do some easy, longer efforts with other people, not by yourself. You don't want to go up there and jam it out for a couple of days and basically just figure your stuff out immediately. What I'd highly suggest is to take, for an example, we're in the high desert here in Arizona. It's probably at 900 feet above sea level at my home, probably at 700 here at the International Center for Fitness. And if we go to Flagstaff, we can get up to 7,700 feet within 2.5 hours. That's with me driving. So if we do have the ability to get there and train for 7 to 10 days, the first number of days would look like some easy, longer efforts. So hiking at that area, and not necessarily from 7 to 10 very aggressively, but doing at a slow pace for accumulation of just getting that easy left ventricle work in, and also basically getting your heart rate at a point that's just maybe a 60% of your max relative to what it was here. So when you get up to that point, your effort will have to be lower and your heart rate will be up at a higher point relative to that percentage. So just recognize your rate of perceived exertion will be higher with less work when you first start doing that. So do that for the first couple of days and then start actually doing, I'd rather you do some weight training scenario stuff with longer sets, like 6 to 10 sets, fairly tough percentages relative to your load, or every minute on the minute lifting with different stuff. Because what that does, it hits both ends of the spectrum, some nice and easy work. This would happen 3 to 4 days in that 10-day period of accumulation of getting up to altitude. Some CP work that basically allows your muscles to work a little bit at an O2 det scenario. I'd highly suggest going up there and doing a 3 to 5 minute thrashing of a mixed modal piece, or 2 days of high intense running at that point. Maybe towards the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th day, you want to initiate some of those intense pieces so you can still do some long work, some middle ground 15 to 20 minute crappy stuff, and then also some lifting to get some volume in that'll basically do some little changes in hematocrit and red blood cell stuff and EPO levels within the system. And also just give you as well some neural system changes in relation to what that feels like. So if you can do that every now and then prior to going to Bear Valley in September, I highly suggest it. If not, there's one way that we've kind of played with it that has been helpful. I've worked with people who've been in Leadville and any ultramarathon races. For example, most recently had an athlete do the Zane Grey for the 3rd year in a row, and beneficial things relative to that altitude, just the training that they can't get when they train throughout the year, has been some training pieces that can uptick your mitochondria. So it's really simple, but it's just never been investigated. But we've been investigating it here at the International Center of Fitness, as well as if you want to look at extremeo2.com and look at the exercise with oxygen trainer technique. The ideas that are in place relative to giving your mitochondria an uptick, there's a lot of benefit in actually doing intense mixed modal training to allow that to happen. So that real crappy feeling you have around 1 to 1:30 in like a Fran event, if you don't know what Fran is, it's an exercise session where you do thrusters and chin-ups. So front squat and push press and then chin-ups, and you do it really intensely for a couple of minutes. That really, uncomfortable 1 to 1.5 minute feeling. If we were to be able to train that, get to that point around that 1 minute or just over a minute, and then relax, and then allow oxygen to get pumped back into our system, and then go into that place again, what happens is that our SpO2 levels, because we measure it here, our SpO2 levels, which at rest are kind of like 98, 99, and sometimes 97, into 96, 95, when we see people come into Arizona for the first couple of days, it's normally an occurrence that happens relative to that. But we see this at rest. When we do 1 minute really hard pieces, what happens, we get their scores down to an 86 to 88 value. So in a medical setting, that would be, red alarms, but basically they change this up after 1 minute and it starts increasing slightly. So we start seeing it go from an 85 piece after a minute up to 88, up to 91, and then back to 92 by the end of like the 3 minutes on a 1K row test. So the whole idea based upon that, or the reason why you'd want to look at that, is that what happens when you go into what's called a desaturation process is you take that starting point of 98 and you drop down to 86. Now at this point of 86, the magic doesn't necessarily occur here. When we stop activity and our SpO2 levels, or the saturation of oxygen within our body, goes back up, when it goes back up to 98, this process of it recharging, the mitochondria has a big part to play in how well we do with that. And most cases, this is the secret ingredient in terms of what happens when people can't acclimatize quicker to altitude. So within our training, something that I would ask you to do over the next couple of months, even in your specific prep, is to throw in maybe twice a week where you do these really high intense desaturation pieces. Now they can be done in two different ways, okay? So just listen if you don't understand so far. I'll just give you the training pieces, train it, and it'll help you. There can be one way that you can do it in which you're going to do it with a cyclical modality. So that basically means you're going to do it on an airdyne, a rower, running. It can be done with swimming if you're proficient at that. And basically you're just going to work your ass off for 1 minute, okay? You're going to go not as hard as you can. So it can't be a 1 minute all-out test because then you'll be done and you got to take 19 minutes to recover from it. So you're going to do 1 minute, and let's just say it's going to be 97% effort. So you're going to be like pinning it, but you're not going to be going all out. And then I want you to take a 2 to 4 minute rest. Why the range? Because some people will change this effort relative to how they're feeling or their training age or their experience and yada yada, you get my drift. And you want to do this 3 to 4 times in that session. Okay? So the second way you can do it is what's called mixed modal training, in which you can do things like, if you're very proficient, you can do 20 seconds of burpees, 20 seconds of clean and jerk at like 40% of your 1RM. You do it really fast, high turnover, and then we do 20 seconds of an airdyne sprint to finish it off. So you can see it's still 60 seconds of total work. Excuse me, the transitions between those two pieces are very light, but again, you're going to take like this 3 to 4 minute break and do it 4 to 5 times. The reason why I want to do it more times here is because alternatively, with using mixed modal work, the percentage, you can try 97%, but it's actually not going to be as easy to get deep into the nervous system as if you choose a cyclical modality when you do it. So this process here, if, for example, your training split was like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do the front end CP work, so that'd be structural work, right? So CP means creatine phosphate, CP, ATP work. And that's basically just to create muscle tendon strength, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy if needed, whatever's needed relative to you for your training in your structure. If you're strong as shit and you got long training age, it may not be a big thing. Maybe it's just a maintenance piece to make sure you can do the volume of the energy system work relative to the Endeavour Challenge. Otherwise, you can do CP structural work and then do some aerobic work right after that, which can be some mixed modal training. It can be, a row, rope climb, burpee kind of combo, and put it together so that you're grunting and moving and grunting and moving, and you're not really like going all out for 15 to 20 minutes. So make it sustainable for that piece. And then you can finish each of these sessions with this. So finish with the cyclical interval, finish with the mixed modal training interval, and then finish with the cyclical interval. And do these at the end of the training, and do it for like 4 to 5 weeks in a row. Then take 4 or 5 weeks off, and do this over and over. And what you'll see happening, especially at the end of this 4 to 5 week piece, is that you'll have a stronger mitochondria reuptake. And you'll start seeing improvements because your rest time between sets will become less and less relative to the same power that you put out in those minutes. Now, the reason why this is key for you in the training is that if you may not have access to do altitude training, we're going to hope, based upon theory as well as from my empirical data, that that desaturation process and you doing it frequently, if you only do it with few sets frequently throughout the week, it won't hurt your nervous system, but it'll allow your mitochondria to reuptake and do things a whole lot faster, so that when you transition and go to 7,000 feet, it doesn't take you 8 hours to acclimatize to running around in the woods and basically finding yourself, so that you have a successful event and make sure that you're training appropriately for it. So let me know how that goes. If there's any questions or comments you have, leave it with the video and I'd be more than happy to answer it or give you some more specific ideas as to how you can fit that in relative to what you're doing for your training. Good luck.